So, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming and welcome to the very first Burlington webinar. And today we're looking at 21st century skills, namely public speaking skills. My name's Andrew Steele and I'm head of teaching and teacher training for Burlington English in India, and I will be your host today. And I'd also like to introduce to you my colleague Arifa, who will very kindly be assisting me with questions, answers, chat boxes, and that type of thing. So would you like to introduce yourself, Arifa?
Hello, everyone. My name is Arifa Zahir, and I'm the academic manager for Burlington English India. Welcome.
Welcome, welcome. So it's Friday evening, it's 5 o'clock, and we are looking at public speaking. And I'd like to begin by finding out where you might be in the world, or indeed in India. I'm in Kathmandu, Nepal. So greetings from Nepal. Where are you, Arifa?
Yes, I've appeared now. I'm in Kolkata, West Bengal, India.
Okay, so you'll probably see at the bottom of the screen, everyone, two things that you can type in. One is a chat box and the other is a Q&A box. So if you want to talk to each other, or if I ask you to respond to a question, can you type your answer in the chat box? If, however, you've got a specific question about the topic I'm speaking about, then please type your question in the Q&A box. So just to check your chat is working, can everyone type into the chat box where they are today? Where are you? What city are you in? Type your answers in the chat box now, please. So Arifa, I am told, is monitoring that chat. So where is everyone, Arifa?
We can see Delhi, Pune, Nagpur, Orissa. A lot of learners from Delhi and Mumbai.
Okay, great. So we've got learners from all over the country. Or perhaps you're not learners. Well, you are for this session. So
yes, the audience.
Let me ask you something about why you're here. That's always interesting for Arifa and I to know. We're going to start off with a short poll. And this poll is asking you to think about your presentation context. So when you need to speak in public, in what context does that happen? Is it in a team meeting, in a workshop or training session? Is it in the classroom as part of your education? Is it a conference or a seminar or something else? So tell us by voting in this poll, please. So you should be able to see the poll now. Choose the one that applies to you and click on it. Okay, we've got some answers coming in. 3 answers. So all the answers are coming in very quickly now. I'm going to give you another 30 seconds to vote in the poll, and then we'll have a look at your responses. Quite a lot for education, classroom, lots more for team meetings. They're both on about 43%. Okay, another 10 seconds to vote in the poll, and then we'll have a look at your answers. 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1, and your time's up. Okay, so as you can see from the results there, the vast majority of you need to speak in front of an audience at a team meeting. Well, I suppose vast majority is not really correct. A small majority of you need to speak in public at a team meeting, and that's followed by education or classroom. 7% of unfortunate people are always public speaking because they need to speak in all of these contexts. Okay, very interesting. That's very helpful for me. It'll give me a clue as to what to focus on with you. Okay, let's do one more poll before we move forward. This time, I'd like you to think about what you find most difficult about speaking in public. And here are your choices. Is it engaging the audience, so saying something interesting, delivering your message in a clear way that everyone understands, sticking to your script, so remembering what to say, or do you feel really nervous? Or do you have difficulty interacting with the audience, handling questions, etc.? Or is it all of these? Can you vote now? I see lots of people are voting. 25, 26 have voted. Another 30 seconds for voting, and then we'll have a look at what you said. Okay, seems like everyone's voted, so I'm going to end the poll now, and let's have a look at the results. Okay, so lots of people feel nervous. Well, we're going to look at that in this webinar, ways of dealing with that. So don't worry, we'll come up with some tips and ideas to make you feel less nervous. Delivering your message clearly, sticking to your script. Yeah, interesting. These are all very common problems that people have when speaking in public. And don't worry if you feel nervous or you think it's difficult. I think that's normal. It's quite daunting, isn't it? Standing up in front of a group of people and they're all looking at you. That's not a normal situation. It's quite usual to feel nervous about that, I think. Okay, let's have a look at our agenda for today. Okay, so here we have it. First of all, we're going to talk about dealing with anxiety. So these are some tips and techniques to help you feel less nervous when you speak in front of a group of people. Secondly, we'll look at a few tips for using your body language effectively. And finally, we'll think about using your voice effectively. So those are the three things that we're going to be talking about today. And if you have any questions about those topics as we go through them, please type your question in the question and answer box. But if you want to chat about them with each other, please continue to use the chat. Okay, let's start then with the first one, which is dealing with anxiety. And I thought we'd start with a question. I've got a question for you, and I'd like you to type your answer, just 1 or 2 words. You don't need a full sentence. So 1 or 2 words in the chat box, please. Why do we fear public speaking? Why does it make us nervous? Please type your answers in the chat box. I'll give you about 30 seconds, and then we'll discuss some of the things you said. So Arifa, are some things coming into the chat box? Why do we fear public speaking?
Yes, Andrew, we've got quite a few responses. A lot of our audience feels it's lack of experience, confidence, fear of giving answers, making mistakes, anxious of not ending up saying something stupid.
Yeah. Very interesting, very interesting. Thank you so much, everyone, for all of those responses. Thanks, Arifa. Yeah, I think when people are looking at us, we somehow feel we're being judged or analyzed, and that makes us feel very uncomfortable. And also, I think we tend to feel that when people are looking at us in that way, they're trying to spot mistakes that we make. And that can make us, again, feel very uncomfortable. What we need to do is to train our brains to stop these negative thoughts, because if you focus on these negative thoughts and not on the message that you want to deliver, then you're going to give a less effective talk or presentation. So you need to focus on the message, not on the negative thoughts, I think is the point there. So how do you do that? How do you relieve anxiety? Well, let's have a think of a few tips that you can perhaps use the next time that you have to speak in public, which will help to reduce your anxiety. And can I remind you that if you have any questions about dealing with anxiety, please type them into the Q&A box while I'm talking, and Arifa will ask me one or two of them at the end of this section. Okay, so let's have a think about a few things you can do before you need to talk in public in order to reduce your anxiety. First, know your topic. If you really know what you're talking about, you will feel much more confident. You'll sound like you know what you're talking about. You'll look like you know what you're talking about, and the audience will believe that you know what you're talking about. So one good way to feel more confident is to be very, very sure of your topic, which is sometimes a lot of work, but that's the best way, I think, to feel confident, or one of the best ways. And the next is also very simple: practice, practice, practice. You'd be surprised how many people don't even give a moment's thought to what they're going to say before they need to start speaking in public. At the very least, write down your main points, your main arguments, the order in which you're going to present them. Even if it's a team meeting or a group discussion in a classroom, you can do that very, very quickly. And practice. If you've got a smartphone, as I'm sure you have, record yourself giving your talk or presentation, or saying what you want to say in the meeting, and listen to it, analyze it. You'll hear some things that you don't like. Those are the things that you should be thinking about to work on. Even better, video yourself. Then you'll see what you look like as well. And again, you'll easily identify things that you could maybe work on or improve. So recording or videoing yourself, practicing your talk, are two very good ways to feel more confident about delivering it. Next, this may seem very strange, but if it's an important presentation, make sure you're well rested, go to bed early the night before, make sure you wake up with a spring in your step, and maybe try and do a bit of aerobic exercise to get the blood flowing around your body. If there's lots of blood flowing to the brain performs better, and you want to be at the top of your game if you're giving an important speech or presentation. Finally, a very simple one: just before you get up there to talk, or just before it's your turn in the meeting, then take a few deep breaths. Breathe. This has two effects. One, it loosens up your vocal cords, so your voice will sound better, but also it can be very calming and help to reduce nerves. So those are some things that you can do before you need to speak in public. Let's now have a look at some things that you can do during. Okay, so you want to get off to a good, confident start. Now, the way you begin, the first few words you say, that sets the tone for the whole of your talk or your presentation. So if you go onto the stage, or if you start speaking at the meeting and you say, "Oh, hi guys, well, yeah, it's good to be here. What am I going to do? Yeah, let me think." And it's all very wishy-washy like that, then the audience are not going to find you credible. However, if you look sharp and sound sharp, then you're going to create a much better impression for your talk. And in a moment, we'll have a look at a technique that you can practice for giving a snappy, sharp introduction to what you're going to say. Now, if you're doing a presentation and you're standing at the front of an audience, it's a good idea, if you're feeling very nervous, to look around, scan the audience for a friendly face. someone who's smiling, someone who looks nice. And if you can make eye contact for a couple of seconds with that person, that will make you feel a bit more comfortable. You've got one friend in the audience. And then if you found one, look for another. Just latch on, make eye contact with people who look friendly. That will make you feel much better. As I said before, you need to focus on your message, not on your anxieties. Your message is key. That's why you're there. That's why you're speaking in front of a group of people. And also don't be apologetic. That again can drag you down and create a bad impression. You must have seen people who give presentations and they say, oh, I'm sorry, I've done this. It's the wrong slide. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about the other. Don't do it. It doesn't create a confident impression. So, as I said, I will give you a tip now, something that you can use in any presentation, and it's called the magic rule of 3. It has nothing to do with lions. It's just that there are 3 of them. And I'd like you to have a go at doing this now, please. It's a really good way to try and start your presentation in a very confident manner. So I don't know if you noticed in this presentation, I began by saying it's Friday evening, it's the end of the week, and we're here to talk about public speaking skills. 3 elements. 3 elements make you sound confident, it's memorable, it sounds right. And all you need to do is to think of 3 things that are true. So it could be, it's Monday morning, it's raining outside, and we're at another team meeting, for example. Any 3 things that everyone can agree on, because they're all true. And so you immediately start with a positive vibe because there's consensus about the first thing that you said. So why don't you have a go at that now? Write 3 ideas. 3 ideas for ways you could start, that you could put together to start a presentation in the chat box. Here's my example on the screen. Let's see if you can write an example and then we'll hear some of them. I'm going to give you 1 minute to do this, please. So your task, to remind you, you've got 1 minute to type 1 sentence into the chat box using this formula. 3 truths that you could use to begin a presentation. Practice it now. 1 minute and we'll be back. So Arifa, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So has anyone typed anything in the chat box yet?
Not as of now. Let's wait for a few more seconds.
Okay. It's a good opportunity to practice.
I know.
Just do it. Anything coming in? Dear, oh dear. Well, I suppose we should move on then. Do you have a go at doing this? Do you have a go at doing this? Oh, yes, Arifa.
Yes, we have.
Please. Who is it? Who is it?
It is Veena Mulle.
Veena Mulle.
And Ratna Kumar.
Hi, Veena. Thank you. We love you.
And so has Ratna Kumar tried.
And Ratna. Hi, Ratna. Thank you. Okay, would you like to read out 1 or 2 of them, Arifa?
Yes,
please?
for sure, Andrew. There we go. Okay. Veena has written, it's a busy day in Pune today, and you all are here to learn public speaking from me with that enthusiasm.
Excellent, excellent. Well done. You can use that at the start of your next presentation. Let's have 1 more before we move on.
Ratna Kumar is saying, good afternoon to all. I'm very pleased to join this public speaking class. That looks like a good afternoon to all and not a sentence.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, thanks, Arifa. So anyway, the point we're making here is that you need to start your presentation or your talk with some va-va-voom. You need to give it some, yeah, so that you are memorable and you set a positive, energetic tone. If you're all sort of at the beginning of the presentation, you'll seem less credible and you'll actually feel physically and mentally more nervous. Okay, so maybe, Arifa, we now have time for one question, if there are any, about anxiety. Did any come in while I was speaking?
Yes, there was this one question by Sanjeev, and he's just written, I have one question. Yes. Anxiety.
Anxiety.
So that's it.
That's it. Well, Sanjeev, I would suggest that you try, one, getting mastery over what you're going to talk about. Two, that you practice, and reflect on your practice and make improvements and changes to your talk. And finally, you know, breathe, focus on the message, not on your anxieties. We'll look at some more techniques actually when we talk about body language and voice as well, which will help you to feel confident. But all of those things I said. Okay, let's move on.
Thank you.
Then. Thank you, Arifa. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Let's move on to the next part of our session, which is how to create the right impression with body language. Now, you often read statistics saying, oh, body language counts for 75% of your message or something like that. I think many of these are not accurate. The one thing that I will say is that body language is important. And let's look at why body language really is very important when you are speaking in front of a group of people. So unfortunately, here we have some, well, perhaps fortunately, here we've got some world leaders. Now, we've got Boris Johnson in place number 1, Donald Trump in number 2, Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand in number 3, and George Bush there in number 4. So have a look at them, have a look at their non-verbal communication, and what do you think how do they feel? What do you think they might be talking about? What do you think? Let's start with number 1. Boris Johnson, have a look at him. What's he talking about, do you think? Type your idea into the chat box. What do you think? Has anyone typed anything, Arifa?
Oh, yes. We've got 3 responses.
Yeah, let's hear them.
Yes. Shalini is saying, trying to find the word.
Yes, he does look slightly confused. Any others?
Veena Mulay, I just got so scared at that moment.
Oh, yes. Maybe someone's asked him a terrifyingly difficult question.
And Himanshu,
okay. Yes, go on.
The last please. One. Himanshu says that he must be saying, please don't do this.
Quite possibly. Number 2, can you think of a word that might describe the message that Donald Trump is sending with his body language? What message is he sending us there? What do you think?
Oh, we're already getting responses.
Yes, do tell us some, please.
Nikhil says he looks very angry.
Yes, okay.
Veena, I will kill him. And Pooja says, we'll finish them.
We'll finish them. That sounds quite likely, doesn't it, for Donald Trump? What about number 3, Jacinda Ardern? What do people think she's saying, or how's she feeling?
Okay, the answers are coming in.
Yeah.
Anmol says she's saying, shut up. Rahul, be careful.
Yeah, she looks like she might be saying, you be careful, you. Yes, excellent.
Yes.
And finally, George W. Bush. Any answers coming in for
Yes,
Mr.
Andrew.
Bush?
Yes. Renu says, don't mess with me.
Yeah. Could be, could be.
Rahul says, damn, not again.
Mm. Okay, so the truth is, I don't know and you don't know. We have no idea what they might have been talking about or how they're feeling. But just by looking at their gestures, their face, their eyes, their position of their head, we are coming up with lots of ideas because we're being sent some sort of message. We've got a lot of different ideas about what these people might be talking about. So it's clear, I think, that what's going on with your body language clearly communicates something to the audience. And if you want to be a great presenter or public speaker, you want to be totally in control of that so that you create the impression and send the message that you want to send. And that is why it's important. You can't just say, I'm going to focus on the words and the body language will take care of itself. No, you need to be in control of both. So let's just make sure that we know what we're talking about when we say body language. There we go. So body language, could you type in the chat box now, please? What do you think I mean when I say body language? What are the different elements? For example, eye contact, that's one element. What are some of the other elements of body language? If you think you know, can you type your thoughts into the chat box now, please? Are there any answers coming in, Arifa?
Yes, they are. Our audience is saying hand movements, gestures, smile, dressing sense,
Yeah.
standing position.
Yeah, all of these things, all of these things. Yeah, you've got your eye contact is definitely very important. Your whole facial expression, what you're doing with your face is important. The way you move your hands and arms, your gestures are important. And the way you stand, your posture is important. In terms of what you're wearing, it should be appropriate. If you were selling beach balls on a beach and you were wearing a suit, you'd look pretty silly. Similarly, if you were at a sales conference and you were wearing shorts, you'd look pretty silly. So dress appropriately. That's, I suppose, part of your non-verbal communication. Okay, let's have a look then at some non-verbal communication that can create a positive impression. And I'm talking about the sort of confident, professional impression that you may want to make if you're communicating in an educational or career context. So first of all, smile. The smile is the bridge between you and the audience. If you begin your talk or presentation with a face like this, then people are going to find it difficult to warm to you, and you'll lack that emotional connection. And smiling and eye contact, these can create emotional connections anywhere in the world. I've spoken in the UK, in Nepal, in India, in China, Malaysia, Fiji, Australia, in public. And a smile and eye contact creates a good impression in every culture. So do make sure that you remember those. Eye contact. Now, you want to make brief eye contact. As I said earlier on, find the friendly faces in the audience, make brief eye contact with them. Keep looking around at the audience to make that eye contact for 1 or 2 seconds with different people. Again, if you're making eye contact, the audience will be engaged by what you're saying because that emotional connection is there. Next, try to use gestures, open-handed gestures, not clenched fist sort of gestures, open-handed gestures, and use your gestures to provide the punctuation for your spoken words. You can use gestures to help emphasize things, to describe things, or to show your attitude to things. So using gestures, again, makes you look more interesting. So try to use gestures in a natural way to punctuate what you are saying. Don't use too many, but control them, control your gestures. Now, if you're ever interacting with the audience, then nodding is something as simple as nodding. Something as simple as nodding can really, again, show that you're listening, show that you're relating to them. So just nodding when there's any interaction, when the audience member is talking, again, can create a positive professional impression. Okay, I'm going to talk about posture now, and I'm going to ask you in a moment to get up out of your seats, wherever you may be, and practice a good presentation posture. And if you think it's a particularly good one, you could maybe post your picture on our social media or not. Anyway, I'd like you to practice the posture that I'm going to show you in a minute. But first of all, here are some pictures of me in different postures that I've seen people use when delivering a presentation. Okay, I took these earlier. I apologize for the quality. So if I were to be giving a presentation using either of these postures, what impression might I be giving? What message might I be sending? Type your ideas in the chat box now, please. Hi, Arifa.
Yes,
let us know when some answers start coming in.
a lot of answers here. Amol says underconfident. Pawan scared. Nikhil nervous.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so all of these things you can see me doing, looking down, crossing my arms across the front of my body, hunching my shoulders forwards, and keeping my legs very close together. All of these things communicate nervousness and worry. So these are things you want to avoid doing when you're standing in front of a group of people. Let's have a look at one more. And again, what do you think this is communicating? Type your answers into the chat box, please. So are any answers coming in, Arifa?
Yes, arrogant. Priyanka says overconfident. Priya says confused.
Okay, well, I think generally this does tend to look quite arrogant, overconfident. It's an expanded posture in the first picture. Can you see my arms are on my hips, so quite a long way away from my body. My chest is puffed out. My chin is up. This can look arrogant, overconfident, and not very relatable. So try to avoid this sort of thing. Similarly, if you stick your hands in your pockets, shrug your shoulders, you're saying, well, I don't really care. It's not really very important to me. I don't know. So both of these are postures to be avoided. Now here's the one I'd like you to have a go at, if you wish. Arifa, I expect you to do this as well. But you haven't got your camera on, so we won't know if you do.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. So what I'm not going to do it, or I won't be able to tell you, but I've got pictures of me doing it. What you have to do first of all is, if you have a look at the picture on the left, you need to stand with your feet very firmly planted on the floor, about shoulder width apart. And your weight should be right on the front part of your foot here. Now, don't be stiff. If you feel stiff and awkward, do a few shoulder rolls or a shake or something to relax yourself. Because although you should be upright, you shouldn't be stiff. No? You should be loose, and slick and confident. Okay, so then you want a nice expression on your face, not a crazy smile, but a nice expression. You want your eyes on the horizon, and you want your hands lightly clasped in front of you, like you can see in the picture on the right. And that is the position you should use to begin your talk if you're standing up to do it, if it's a presentation where you need to stand in front of the audience. This will make you look confident, and not only will it make you look confident, if you're standing in this really confident posture, your body will be sending a message to your brain saying, look, I'm in this really confident posture. And your brain will say, oh yes, you do look quite confident in that posture. And it'll start this affirmation loop. So the very fact of being in this confident posture and maintaining a confident posture will help you to feel more confident. And if you'd like to read more about that idea or hear more about that idea, have a look at Amy Cuddy's TED Talk. Amy Cuddy is, well, she used to be a professor at Harvard Business School, specializing in social psychology. And she's done some very interesting research on how our body language can affect the way we feel. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, do Google Amy Cuddy. She's a very good public speaker also. Okay, we're going to move on to think about voice in a moment. But just before we do, Arifa, have any questions about body language come in while I've been talking?
Yes, we have one question on body language.
Please, who's it from?
Mohit Singh.
Mohit Singh, thank you very much for your question.
Okay, I want to ask, does body appearance affect body language? That's his question.
I think maybe, I'm not quite sure what you mean, Mohit, by body appearance. Do you mean if you're tall or short or large or small or old or young, or I'm not sure quite what you mean by that. But I would say that when you practice, you just do things that look natural for whatever type of appearance you may have. And there's no right appearances or wrong appearances in general. I mean, the clothes that you wear and the way you do your hair and things at a business presentation, there's a way of doing it, isn't there? Which depends on the culture of the audience that you are presenting to. And I don't necessarily mean the national or ethnic culture. It could be the corporate culture, the business culture. So I think that dictates to some extent the clothes that you wear, the way you wear your hair, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. But in terms of your appearance, then practice and see what looks natural for your body type, your look, for you. And use the things that work for you. We're all very different. Yeah? What works for me might not work for Arifa. So find the body language that makes you look good in your presentations. It's different for everyone. Okay, thank you, Arifa. Let's move on then to our final section, which is all about your voice. Okay, so obviously there are 3 channels that we use when we communicate, when we're speaking in public. One is the words that we use, which are obviously very important. We haven't looked at them in this webinar. We will in a later webinar. And your body language is the second channel of communication. And the third is your voice. And the voice is the channel which can make you sound sincere, make you sound confident, make you sound more professional, and assure people that you are credible and believable, and many other things that your voice can do to make your talk or your presentation a success. Now, if your voice is boring or unpleasant or difficult to listen to or difficult to understand, then the unfortunate truth is that many people will simply stop listening to you, and you'll find it difficult to get your message across. Also, if you start a presentation or a talk and your voice is really shaky or it isn't loud enough, you'll give the impression you're the guy who didn't prepare the presentation. Well, you don't know what you're doing. So your voice is really quite important in terms of conveying your professionalism and your credibility. So what pitfalls do you need to avoid? Excuse me. So first of all, I think a very common problem for speakers, for native speakers of English and for speakers of other languages who are delivering a talk in English, I think monotony is a big problem. If you speak in a dull and monotonous voice, people will switch off because their brains will find something more interesting to focus on. So if you have a voice which doesn't really move much and it never goes up and down and you just go on and on talking like this, that's an example of a monotonous voice. There's no upwards and downwards movement, same pace, no pauses, no emphasis. You will never be able to draw your audience in to your message for a long period of time. They'll switch off after 30 seconds or 1 or 2 minutes. So if you have got a monotonous voice when you present, and maybe that's because you're nervous or because you haven't trained your voice or for any reason at all, you need to practice making your voice less monotonous. Now, one good way of making your voice, getting more movement into your voice is by loosening your vocal cords. If your vocal cords are relaxed, it's easier to get movement into your tone and pitch. If you're feeling really tense and your vocal cords are all tight, you may become a bit monotonous. So deep breathing, as I said before your presentation, is a great, simple exercise to loosen up those vocal cords. I'm also going to show you another exercise, and I guarantee you that if you practice this exercise for a few minutes every day for 4, 5, 6 weeks, your vocal cords will become more malleable, more flexible, and you'll find it easier to have a good speaking voice. Very simple exercise. You need to make a noise like a siren. As you can see on the screen, we have a siren here. And what you need to do is to go from the bottom of your vocal range, so your lowest note, up to your highest note, and then down again. So do have a go at doing this wherever you are. Don't worry that any people in the room with you will think you're mad. Have a go anyway. Who cares what they think? So I'll demonstrate it, and then I'll ask Arifa to do it with me, and perhaps you could join in with Arifa if you wish. We won't hear you, but maybe we'll be able to feel you doing it through the Zoom. Okay, so all you do is this. You go, like that. And you do it 2 or 3 times. Maybe then have a little break, do it again 2 or 3 times. And if you do that for a few minutes every day, that will really strengthen and make flexible your vocal cords. So let's do it all together. Aretha, you need to do it as well. So you start at your lowest note, you go up to your highest note. After 3, 1, 2, 3. So if you want to do that for a couple of months, your voice will sound better. I guarantee it. Won't sound better if you only do it once. But if you practice, practice makes perfect. Okay, so that's one thing. Next then, adding emphasis can make whatever you're saying sound an awful lot better. So for example, in this sentence, maybe I want to emphasize the 30 years experience and the 30 countries. So rather than saying Burlington English has more than 30 years experience of English language and soft skills teaching in over 30 countries around the world, don't say that. Instead, say this: Burlington English has more than 30 years experience of English language teaching and soft skills teaching in over 30 countries around the world. Emphasize the words in your talk or presentation that are most important to you. Have a look at this. What I'd like you to do, please, is to type in the chat box what you think are the 3 most important words or expressions in that introduction. So type your answers in the chat box now. I'll give you about 30 seconds and then we'll start looking at some of them. So what do you think are the words which should be emphasized? What are the most important words in this introduction? 30 seconds, please. So have we got any answers coming in, Aretha?
Quite a few. So
Yeah.
Aman says anxiety. Sanjeev, anxiety, body language.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And
looks like people are getting the right ones. Well done if you got them. Here they are. Oh no, they're not. Just a moment. Here they are. Yeah, I think these are the ones I would stress: dealing with anxiety, body language, and vocal technique, because those are the most important pieces of information in those sentences. So simply by emphasizing the right words, you can sound clearer and more professional. Another thing that you need to get into the habit of is using a variety of pace and pausing. Here, for example, it might be a good idea to pause, leave a little silence before you make your main point. Like this, for example. The most important thing to remember is to focus on your message, not your anxiety. So by leaving a short pause, you almost create anticipation in the audience, and then they'll be more attentive when you make your important point. You could also leave a short silence after your important point, like here. The most important thing to remember is to focus on your message, not your anxiety. Now, let's move on to look at body language. So don't be afraid of silence. Leaving a couple of seconds pause either before or after an important point will help to make it more memorable for the audience. Okay, we're going to finish then, before we go on to your questions and answers. I'm going to show you 2 more exercises that you can use to improve the quality of your voice. Now, I think it's very important these days, especially as organizations are getting more and more multinational, and it's more and more likely that we're going to be speaking in meetings with people who for whom English is not a first language, say. So everyone in the organization is speaking in English, but English is not a first language for many of them. And that's going to become increasingly more common, I think, especially in the days of Zoom and video calling and virtual teams. So you need to speak clearly. You need to be easy to understand. And this is a question of doing two things. One, a question of choosing your language carefully, so you're not using slang or jargon or words that not everyone understands. And the other is enunciating your words clearly, so saying them with lots of movement in your mouth. So the exercises that we're going to look at now are to strengthen your jaw, tongue, and lip muscles. And it's like an aerobic workout for your mouth muscles. And the stronger and more supple these muscles are, the easier you will find it to enunciate clearly in any language. Again, it won't happen overnight. You'll need to practice these exercises over a period of weeks regularly, for a few minutes every day. The first one is called onion, and I'd like us all to have a go at doing it. What you need to do, very simple, is you need to say the word onion 5 times. The first 4 times, you say it with your teeth and lips tightly closed. And the 5th time you say it, you open your mouth as widely as you possibly can and say it very loudly. Okay, let me demonstrate that, and then I'd like you to have a go at doing it as well, so the people in the room where you are can really have a good laugh this time. Okay, because you appear quite ridiculous when you're doing it, but it's good for those muscles. So you shut everything really tightly, teeth together, lips together. Onion! That's how you do it. So let's all do it together. I want to imagine all of the participants, Arifa, in the webinar, where they are. I want to imagine them all sitting there and saying onion in a silly voice.
Yes.
Okay, let's do it together. Let's do it together. Everything's shut. Onion. There you go. You should be able to feel the stretch in your jaw muscles if you did it correctly. So that's a good one. That will really help to make your mouth muscles more supple. The last one, it's called toffee, because it sounds like you've got a toffee in your mouth when you do the exercise. For this one, you simply put the tip of your tongue on the top of your mouth, the roof of your mouth, it's called in English. So the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth, and you keep it there, and you use your lips to say the days of the week, Monday through Friday. Then you open your mouth as wide as you possibly can to say the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. I'll give you a demonstration. And again, this one's very good for making your lips stronger so you can pronounce things more clearly. I'll give you a demonstration and then we'll all do it together. So, tip of tongue, top of mouth. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now I know I must have looked like a fool when I was doing that, but I wanted to share this exercise with you because it's very good for improving enunciation. So your chance to look like a bit of a fool now. So put the tip of your tongue on the top, the roof of your mouth, and say the days of the week with me and Arifa. Are you ready, Arifa?
Yes.
Okay. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, I almost forgot the weekend there. Okay, so again, you should feel like a little pull in your lips and your jaw if you did that properly. And doing those types of exercise can help you to speak more clearly. Okay, so time to reflect on what we've been talking about. We looked at some techniques for reducing anxiety before and during speaking in public. We've looked at some tips about how to use body language to create the best impression. And we've looked at some tips and some exercises for improving the quality of your voice. So your job now is to reflect on your own performance. Everyone's different. Everyone needs to work on different things. So which of those elements do you need to focus on? The nervousness, the voice, the body language, or perhaps it's the content, the structuring, topics that we will look at in future webinars. So those are the things that you need to think about now. I'd like to thank you very, very much for attending this Burlington English 21st Century Skills webinar. Do go to our website, burlingtonenglish.in, to find out about the date and the time and the topic and all sorts of things about our next webinar. You can also find out by liking us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those sites. Just look for Burlington English India and we'll keep you up to date with future events. And I see we have a few minutes left. So any questions that anyone wants to ask, either about the things that we've been talking about or public speaking in general, please feel free. So over to you, Arifa.
Yes, Andrew, we've got a few questions. I would like to begin by, excuse me, asking you Priyanka Gupta's question. If you start a presentation on a wrong foot, how can we still handle and rectify the situation?
Okay, so again, you need to focus on the message, not on your anxieties. Yeah? So stop, I would suggest. Stop, get yourself together, look at your notes, look at your slides, say, excuse me for one moment or something in as confident a voice that you can. Collect your thoughts together, take a couple of deep breaths, do all of this as quickly as you possibly can, and then begin again with your focus on the message rather than getting inside your head. Don't get inside your head because you'll go on this negative spiral and it'll get more and more and more difficult. So stop, take a deep breath, focus your thoughts, begin again. That would be my advice.
Thank you, Andrew. Sapna and Ratna Kumar had similar questions. I hope Andrew's answer has given you the answers. So now we've got one more question.
Can I say one more thing there? Sorry, it's just come to mind. If you make a mistake, if you say the wrong thing, if you're a confident presenter and you do know your stuff, you see, it's all connected. If you really know your stuff, but you make a mistake, you say the wrong thing, doesn't matter. You know your stuff. You say, I'm sorry, I've said the wrong thing. I mean, that's one time when maybe you should apologize and then make it very clear what the correct thing is. We all make the odd slip up from time to time. If you're confident, you shouldn't worry about making a mistake. You just correct your mistake and show that humility to the audience. And again, that can help to build the emotional bond. Sorry, Arifa, I interrupted you. We have another question.
No problem, Andrew. Another question by M. Sparshmera. How should body language change with the type of event we are speaking at?
Well, yes, I think you need to consider, body language, like verbal language. You can have casual body language, you can have formal body language, you can have professional body language. What I've been talking about in this webinar is the sort of body language that may be suitable for giving a fairly formal presentation, be it at a seminar or a conference or at work or at school, where you stand up in front of an audience and talk quite seriously about a particular topic. That's the sort of body language that we looked at today. However, it depends on the context, you know. It really does. If you're giving a speech at a wedding, for example, then that's not going to be nearly as formal, and different types of body language will be appropriate. So you need to judge that based on different situations. And the sort of body language that I've been talking about in this webinar is not going to be appropriate body language for every situation. However, if you want to come across as a confident professional who knows what they're talking about in an educational or a professional context, then the body language we talked about today can be useful for creating that impression.
Wonderful.
Time for one more before we finish, Arifa.
Thank you for that answer, Andrew. And the last one for today, by Veena Mulay. How can we get rid of the fear of being judged for speaking wrong English and using stupid words? Because sometimes we mistakenly say wrong words out of nervousness.
Well, I think again, if it's a very important presentation, I would actually write it out. I'd have a script. You know? I would try not to use that script, and I wouldn't really worry about sticking to every last word in the script, but I'd certainly use that script for practicing. Maybe if I didn't have much experience of presenting, I might even underline the words I want to emphasize. I'd put in pauses to show where I wanted to pause, and I'd use that script for my initial practicing. Then I would practice and practice and practice and practice and practice. And so eventually I wouldn't need the script. Now that might take a lot of time, but I think if it's a very important presentation, then it's worth it. And of course, presentation skills are soft skills. So the more you practice, the better you get. That's what happens with soft skills. So I would say, in terms of using the wrong word, if it's just sort of an unimportant word, well, who cares? No one's judging you. Well, hopefully not anyway. Very few people will be. But if it's a word which is very important to the content of your presentation, maybe a word that you say many times, then you must make sure that you get the right word with the right pronunciation and practice it. So it depends on the word. If it's an unimportant word, I really wouldn't worry about it, because again, if you're worrying about, oh my goodness, I've said the wrong word, what do they think of me? You're focusing on your anxieties, not on your message. So don't worry about it. If it's completely the wrong word and it's an honest mistake, correct yourself. But if it's a key word in your presentation or talk, make sure you don't make that mistake. Get it right, practice it. Practice the pronunciation, choose the right word.
That's valuable advice, Andrew. Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for attending our webinar on this Friday evening. Hopefully you've got a few tips and tricks that you can use in your next talk. And stay tuned for our next Burlington English webinar. Namaste, thank you, bye-bye.